Happy Sunday, Smite fans, and welcome into the Smite Challenger Circuit. Aggro and Mifflin here to take you through our final game of the week, at least the ones before SPL. Of course, we've always got some extra stuff going on afterwards, so actually maybe not. I don't know. What am I even doing here? Happy Sunday, everyone. Can you tell it's the last day of the week? Aggro and Mifflin, as I mentioned, taking you through what should be a good matchup up against Team Joystick up against Goodnight Nick. Two teams, Mifflin, that have seen a lot of success recently in the EU SCC.
They have, but they've also seen some recent changes as well. We've got iSilence replacing Calvin now for the second week in a row, which makes me believe this might be a permanent change. And then maybe a little bit more interesting, Goodnight Nick, a team that has had a resurgence recently, is actually having a replacement there as well. Emilzy out, Callus back in. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if that's going to change up too much, but there's plenty of synergy between him and the rest of the boys.
It's true, of course. Always playing with Ice and Wolfie and Deathwalker and all that kind of stuff. So definitely excited to see what that team is going to bring. Let's take a look at the schedule for this week and catch you up on what you may have missed from this week in the Smite Challenger Circuit. As I mentioned, this is our final game of the week here on our broadcast end. And if you missed Europe, Elysium beat Pandemonium 2-0, and Just F6 did the same to the Snake Hunters. In North America, it was a little bit closer. Sturdy Artisans edged out a 2-1 win over the Tiburones, and the Herculean Hoofs did the same to the Average Joes. Sleekness 2-0 over Winter Dogs, which was big because the Winter Dogs, of course, on top of the North American standings going in at the very least. Let's take a look at the standings in Europe with today's match looming then. Goodnight Nick and Team Joystick can even up at 6-3 apiece if Goodnight Nick were to win, or Team Joystick can put themselves one step closer to tying Elysium with just 1 week of games to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one for both of these squads. Goodnight Nick obviously may have gotten off to a slightly slower start here inside of the phase, but has certainly hit the ground running since then. And Team Joystick, I think Gormizer actually said that was his favorite team to watch.
Love
because
them.
They do just have an eclectic style of play, a very interesting god pool between all of them. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say all of them. The guy on your screen is the one I'm talking about, Lamogao.
Yeah.
He plays Kabrakan, he plays Hades, or he just plays whatever he feels like.
Kumba is big in there. Anytime Odin's open, you have to assume he's going to be getting it. But overall, definitely one of the more unique play styles in the league. Joystick is just one of these teams that they just keep winning. Whatever it is, they just can't seem to falter. Sap has looked really good in the mid lane. I've been really impressed with his play. I've been a big fan of what Calvin's been doing. I'm excited to see what iSilence is going to be able to do on stepping in. But Sarpei, Echrome, I mean, everyone on this team has been stepping up.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, for my money, I probably give a little bit more credence to Sap7. That guy has been on a tear recently, somehow allowed to play, it seems like, the meta picks whenever he wants, but that might be a byproduct of all the targeted bans that are headed towards Lamogao. I mean, I'm surprised every time it happens, but we see Kabrakan bans in like the first phase. Occasionally we see a Hades ban inside of the second phase. People are scared of what he's doing inside of the Soul Lane.
I mean, this team just keeps winning, and Mogao's been a big part of it, so I suppose it makes some sense in that regard. On the other end, of course, Goodnight Nick, as Mifflin mentioned, has been on a really big tear recently. Emilzy stepping in for Callus, but Callus now back for this squad. But anytime you're looking at this team, you're looking at the SPL experience of what was Emilzy, now Callus, who also has that SPL experience, of course, but Wolfie, Ice, and Deathwalker. But don't forget about their ADC. Streak Up, one of the premier ADCs in this region.
Yeah, Streak Up has been very dominant inside of the lane. One of the more aggressive players for this team. Likes to go towards things like the Heimdalls, the Izunamis of the world, and do exactly this. Oh, you thought your purple buff was safe? Not the case. Maybe just die inside of your tier 2 tower. And that was back when Artemis was actually one of the premier hunters within the league, when the attack speed build really was working out for them. These guys are a multifaceted threat, but maybe one of their downfalls is their slower pace to the game. They really will kind of meander for about the first 20 or so minutes, and then if you're allowing them to get to that late game point, they're going to roll over you. Their team fight is that good.
They have a lot of experience in those regions, so no real surprise they want to take it to one of their strong points as a team. But feel like I'm looking at their picks they're going here. I mean, Fenrir jungle, Mulan solo, these are typically more aggressive options
Yeah.
that you would see. So
Uh-huh.
they're giving themselves the capability
Yep.
to be aggressive in the early game, right?
They are. They don't, but they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they like these early game. Well, I'm not even sure that they certainly like these early game picks. Deathwalker actually put out a tweet after that set where he's playing Mulan, played it 2 out of 3 games, and said exactly this: "That god's kind of bad, but I like playing her."
Okay.
So there you have it.
Well, there you have it. We'll see if he's having fun playing God he thinks is kind of bad in Mulan as we head into picks and bans for game number 1 of our first game of the day. Joystick in that first pick position, and we've seen, as you mentioned, a lot of focus on what Mogao has been doing in this solo lane, so maybe they could pick up something pretty strong with Goodnight Nick having to focus on what Mogao's picking.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the ban phase rolls out. It feels like the European SCC really does have a unique meta in their own right, and immediately reflected. Cabrakan taken off the table by Goodnight Nick, immediately towards Lamogao, not allowed to play that Bancroft's Talon first item, Cabrakan solo lane with all that lifesteal and power, and now has to go a little bit deeper inside of his God pool. And Joystick actually banning out Morgan Le Fay. That's a mid laner that has really kind of fallen off a lot of people's radar recently.
Yeah, not one of the premier mid laners in the SPL anymore, but I mean, we saw what Wolfie was able to do in that one highlight clip. Clearly one of his favorite picks, and you're looking at the bans against Goodnight Nick. 35% of the time Morgan Le Fay is taken away, and 50% of the time it's Tiamat. And this time Joystick end up hitting both of those. Hell, the other ban here for Goodnight Nick, is this a pick that Sap has looked very good on.
Yeah, Hell is also just incredibly dominant inside of the early game, I think, at least. A lot of people say her early game damage might be not all the greatest, but I think around level 3, she hits a massive power spike. It's similar to like that Ares curve in that around level 3, you're feeling really good. Maybe like level 9, not so good. And then in the late game, you're feeling good again. Hell, maybe a little bit more so thanks to that sustain. But with all the bans as they've rolled out, all these targeted bans does leave some of these priority picks available. And Raijin, a god that has great early game and potentially even better late game, locked in immediately.
I mean, if Tiamat, Hell, Morgan Le Fay are all off the board, then we've got one top-tier mid laner left, and it makes sense that they take it. But this is the pick that I was worried about here, Mifflin. Geb still open here, and this is a pick that Kalas has played in the past that you know he should be pretty comfortable with, and they snatch it up alongside the Loki.
Yeah, Geb is just so strong right now with the recent changes to him. Cataclysm now dealing a baseline of damage as well as taking away percentage of your remaining HP. Means that when he hits that 4 key, you're probably kind of disappearing.
So much damage.
Yeah. Luckily, though, you know, there's a silver lining. The damage, the base damage doesn't scale with power, but that just means that they made the number really big.
It's a lot.
So he does a lot of damage anyway. It's kind of like a Death Scythe if Death Scythe was a large circle around you.
And stunned you.
And stunned you. Wow. And then you can knock up afterward.
Yeah,
and
that's pretty good.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Oh, Geb might be good.
I think Geb's good. I think we're onto something here on the desk. It's Chiron locked in for Team Joystick. This is a pick that if ability hunters are coming back, and Uller has been the premier one that everyone's talking about, but Chiron brings a little bit more team utility, a less outright solo kill potential, but we still saw plenty of those from Chiron whenever he was really meta earlier this year.
Yeah, Chiron is a pick that came out in like the first week of 8.9. Barracuda took this god a couple of times, likes to go towards that a little bit of lifesteal with the Cal, then immediately into like the Crusher. We've seen Aussie paired up with that as well. Transcendence is something that he has utilized incredibly well throughout the years. So I think he's going to feel just fine here inside of 8.9. But speaking of feeling fine, RDO locked in pretty late inside of the draft. Sure, like sixth pick overall might not be the latest, but when you're talking about a god as strong as RDO, maybe a little bit later than everyone is expecting.
I mean, Goodnight Nick has Loki, Geb, RDO. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think we're all on the same page there. Plenty of frontline, plenty of CC, and this Loki looks to be one of the assassins that has been unlocked in 8.9. There are a lot of them, but Loki maybe near the top.
Yeah, his early game prowess really does get to hit the ground running now that Jotun's Wrath is available for cheaper. You got all the Mace Tree getting additional power. Transcendence is utilized by him pretty well. And I think that just that minor rework earlier on this year was slept on a little bit. This god is now a huge threat at every facet of the game. In the late, with Assassinate, he still has that like kind of one-tap potential where he can show up and just make sure you're not on the map anymore. And in the early game, he can fight in thanks to the Flurry Strike. So I think that Loki getting picked this early makes a little bit of sense.
Robin on the other side is one of those assassins that is seeing more play again, but also maybe not as exciting to me as something like the Loki. For me, Robin is the, I don't really know what else is good here. I'm going to take Robin sort of pick.
Are you adding me right now? Robin was like my mainstay when we played against each other.
Well, he was better back then.
Okay, he was really good.
He was
a warrior back then.
Yeah, and he was really good. And he's fine now.
He's the same god still. He hasn't eaten too many nerfs since then. He still has great scaling in the late game. His 1v1 potential is really high. You could put overhead kick on any ability. You can replace any standard ability in the game with overhead kick.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's an upgrade.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. But does he win against Loki 1v1 late game?
Well, it depends. How good is he at using overhead kick?
As well as you can.
He might.
He doesn't.
He might.
I don't think so. I think this Loki should get the edge. But we'll see. As Yamoja, 9th pick, Merlin 10th. These are some pretty heavy hitters coming in late in the draft. I mean, getting this Yamoja 9th overall for Joystick. They've got a lot of team sustain now between the Yamoja and the Cthulhu once they actually join in on these team fights. The front line for Goodnight Nick, obviously great between Geb and RDO, but we'll see if Joystick's able to do it as we head into game for game number 1. I think both teams, Mifflin, probably coming away with some pretty strong drafts in this instance.
Yeah, I think a lot of Team Joystick's game plan is going to revolve around their mid 2v2. Sarpei and Sap7 playing both very early game aggressive picks. Raijin, the second he ticks over to 2, going to get availability for that dash in to set up for the root slow from Sarpei. So Wolfie going to have to play very safe on this Merlin, and as you alluded to, the healing from Team Joystick is kind of annoying to deal with, and it's not just Cthulhu and Yamoja. Maybe we give a slight nod over to the Chiron as well.
Yeah, a slight nod, I suppose. I thought you were going to be bringing up the healing on Robin 3, and I was like, I don't think that.
Well, no,
never once am I
that's
building
just for yourself. You know?
Right, and I never once am I building anti-heal to deal with that.
Well, you might be right though. Like Chiron plus Robin together, that's not bad. That's some healing right there.
That's some healing, I suppose.
There's going to be some green numbers over their heads.
Green numbers, but the Goodnight Nick has green numbers of their own, especially for Deathwalker over here in the solo lane. I'm of the opinion now, Miff, that RDO is one of those picks that I think you kind of need to build anti-heal against, because otherwise she just does too much on her own in the midst of the team fights. Do you think that Joystick is going to need to get a Brawlers here for Sarpei or a Divine for Sap?
Yeah, I think that you go towards anti-heal inside of the build, but not from the relic tree. You're not building an Ankh just because RDO's in the game, even though you probably will find a little bit of value as that heal does ring through an entirety of the team fight. But Brawler's Beat Stick just feels good right now. It just has a ton of power. It's a great stat stick. I'm building it regardless. All right, answer me this, Aggro. Are you really thinking about buying Brawler's Beat Stick? Is that something like, oh, I don't want to have to buy it?
Yeah, because then it means I might not have room for Crusher or for.
Oh, you're building the whole mace tree now.
All right, but what about like Erendite? I'd like that.
You don't really need that anymore.
But it does a lot of damage.
We were going like Hidden Blade, Heartseeker, whole mace tree, and you're one-shotting.
Yeah, but and you get a little CDR from something like that. It feels pretty good.
You can actually get Transcendence with that build too, and with Jotuns, you're kind of like CDR capped for the most part.
You would be capped, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't need all that.
But then you can't build the whole mace tree and Heartseeker with Transcendence.
All right, you're right. But I'm not sacrificing Brawler's Beat Stick. That item is just insane right now.
Iceye's looking for Sarpei in the jungle. Here's the Assassin 1v1, but Deathwalker's going to show up and make sure it isn't a true 1v1, but it's Ice in trouble first. Sap is going to get first blood for Team Joystick, but Deathwalker will claim Sarpei on the back end. Sap walks into mid and gets a little bit of damage on his head, but doesn't have to use the beads. No CC available from Wolfie. Joystick and Goodnight Nick trade kills, but it's Joystick who gets the first blood.
Surprised to see Team Joystick allow Deathwalker to walk away after diving so deep to chase out his kill. Dash was used to confirm and was immediately rooted by the Cthulhu. Sap7 being level 4. Could have potentially put a lot of damage back in, but as of now, is a small trade for Team Joystick.
Ice is back, and he's immediately impacting the map. Echrome in a bit of trouble, but not going to fall. Has that giddy up available, but still Ice well pathed out of the base, heads right to this purple buff that was in danger of invade from Team Joystick. Because that means that on the right-hand side, Sarpei can try and do the same. Deathwalker does claim the blue, but he is completely out of mana. Just don't know if they've got the damage in order to take him down.
No, not this time around. Maybe a little bit later once Robin's got some items under his belt. That god, although good inside of the early game, does generally need at least 1 or 2 items before he's really starting to hit his pace. And Heavy Mace is not that item. He's not that guy just yet. Sarpei, though, has put a lot of pressure on this right-hand side, just making sure that Deathwalker can't feel too comfortable. Unsuccessful in the blue buff invade, but successful in sending Deathwalker back to base.
Seems like Joystick's had a lot of pressure over here on this left-hand side. I mean, that is, for all the strengths of Geb, and we've seen a lot of them recently, this might not be one of them. As Ice blinks in onto Sap, but Sap has the Taiko drums. Taunts Ice in underneath the tower and nearly had him dead to rights. That first shot, he used a fear, and that might have been what cost him.
Yeah, wants to use the fear because he's worried about that damage being so close to him, I think. I mean, the taunt in, you're still getting hit regardless, so maybe one more auto attack would have been enough. But I think there's enough range there had he just used taunt every single time. That guy's dead to rights every single time, I say. It's maybe getting away with murder, but at least is able to force the ultimate out of Sap 7. Maybe not the beads, but now that Assassinate's become available, you can head back over and try again.
Silenced is 5, and you can use that tower as a way to block them in with that River's Rebuke, but Echrome hasn't backed quite yet, so maybe not enough damage on the all-in from this Chiron. Certainly been a pretty active game so far for Ice, 0-1-1. Got the assist after he fell, but then blinking in mid, coming over to defend this duo purple. Certainly been active so far and might have to be again, as Sarpei is here this time around for this purple buff invade. Pressure still had by Team Joystick, as neither duo lane has backed at all. So pretty weak on both ends, but Kalas is going to be the target. Mystic Rush right on top of him. That's a good Cataclysm, but it doesn't catch Echrome, who's going to set up Sarpei easily. Assassinate gets immuned by Sarpei, who is going to be A-okay even from all 3 shots. A good execution there by Joystick in order to take down Kalas.
But maybe too expensive for them to keep up the aggression. Purple buff going to be picked up by Ice here if Team Joystick aren't able to work their way forward, and I don't think they're working their way through a full HP streak up this time around. But a 1-for-0 trade is never something you're feeling bad about. Great usage of the overhead kick from Sarpei to immune the Assassinate from Ice. It's something we were talking about during the P's and B's. That's why Robin wins the 1v1. I've decided that that's the hill I'm dying on.
Okay. I just think that in the late game, Loki doesn't really need to assassinate you. His auto cancels kill you.
Well, maybe that could be the case if Robin wasn't fighting inside of the wave and uses his third ability, that self-heal, on not only the entirety of the wave, but also the Loki to generate space, and then you can kind of outrange him with the Prana Onslaught. You'll see.
Okay, so also in this scenario, did Sarpei have a really good breakfast and
oh, for sure,
had a good night's sleep the night before?
He ate some wheat thins and
that constitutes a really good breakfast, wheat thins?
Well, yeah, they're really good for you. It's a great source of fiber. We're not sponsored here on the SCC, but
or the SPL.
Oh yeah, hey, look, we're on the SCC right now. Let's not rule things out for the SPL.
That's true. It doesn't start until 1 p.m. Maybe wheat thins isn't even the right thing. They're gonna hear us and instantly try and sponsor us.
They just spiked in purchases right here, and they're
right
trying to
now
figure out where it's coming from.
It's coming from Joystick up against Goodnight Nick, as expected, I'm sure, from their marketing department. I'm looking at the XP right now, Mifflin, and there is a significant lead for Sap in the mid lane. And look at the XP per minute. It's not like this lead is slightly in his favor. It is over 100 extra XP per minute. His streak up is going to go up into the sky. Sarpei's Mystic Rush forced out. I think that's because Ice was on the rotation over. He's going to meet up with Eye Silence, but he's got some Riptides to get him out of there.
Yeah, Eye Silence just fine in this situation. And take a peek at the build pass between these two hunters. Streak up going for the much more standard Icavale inside of that first slaughter. Maybe not too standard nowadays. Standard used to be inside of 8.8. But 1v1s between Streak Up and Echrome, regardless of this ability damage thanks to Transcendence, I think just going to go Streak Up's way. Stripping Power is just a nuts passive.
Yeah, it's really good. But once Echrome finishes off this Transcendence, maybe it gets a little bit closer. That 10% CDR could make the difference.
I think the secondary item is really going to show how this 1v1 goes. If we see Transcendence into a Crusher like we've seen for Barracuda in the past, maybe you're just putting out enough damage in that ability rotation, but Streak Up likely going to head towards Aussie in his second slot, which means given the opportunity, could close gap and just lifesteal through a lot of that damage as well. Centaurus, though, giving you that death immunity and return damage with an ability build. Pretty nice.
Blink in from Kalas, finds 2 with that Cataclysm, but no one respects it at all. There's the River's Rebuke, comes up. Kalas does have a slight window, but a little bit too big on the Geb, but does stay up for a little bit longer than I think Joystick was ready for. Sap claims him, but he lost his life in response. Mogao has beat Deathwalker on this rotation, and he is going to try and cut down Wolfie, and he's got the damage to do so. Beads from Streak Up prevents the knockup, but that Riptide was excellent in order to force the ultimate, but good stalling. here by Streak Up to push Sarpei back towards Ice
Yes.
Ice, who goes up, down, onto Ice. No
wins those.
way. Sarpei wins those. I concede to Mifflin. And Robin gets the job done. 5 kills now on the board for Streak Up.
Man, Team Joystick looking so fancy on the map, just playing as aggressive as they can. Sarpei finding the 1v1 on the tail end. Great rotation from Lamogao to just finish up that fight with a bow tie, and cannot sleep on Eye Silence. The Riptides throughout the entirety of that engagement set up every individual kill. Oh, we're trying to set up for this Geb. Yeah, just great ultimate into a Riptide. Oh, you're trying to finish off this Rom? Maybe I Riptide him too. And off of that, Team Joystick with a very convincing battle in their favor, but Golden XP still pretty tight at this point. 9 minutes in, maybe around 2,000, closer to 1,000 in favor of Joystick.
Looks like most of the lead is on Sarpei, and for good reason, after he just absolutely demolished Ice Ice in that 1v1. That's where the early game damage is gonna really shine through, and certainly Robin should be winning that at this point. Mystic Rush, also a pretty good ability, it turns out.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
sometimes a little hard to hit.
Maybe for you. I mean,
It is. I miss it all the time.
It's a standard jump, man.
It's so tiny.
It's the exact same as like Hunbot's leap.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I just miss it more. I swear.
I mean, like, yeah, I guess.
Maybe Robin is good. I'm just missing the ult.
Yeah, you got to be landing those ults. The passive on it gives you a lot of survivability inside of these team
Okay,
fights.
well, you get the survivability regardless. It's the extra damage that you
Well,
get.
the extra damage is also pretty nice.
You get a mini Sunder effect on them. Ice Ice's going to stealth in mid, but Silence heard it alongside Sap, and Silence has Riptide. Umoja's still good, by the way.
Yeah, this god should be getting banned, and it generally is at the North American SCC and inside of the SPL. European SCC, though, they like their Gebs, their Sylvanuses, and their everything else. The Kepris of the world. I mean, they're similarly inside
All
of
of
the
those
SPL.
are good. I mean, yeah, all those picks are still good. It's just Umoja is also good.
Yeah, maybe ban it.
Yeah, I find myself...
Was that a 9th pick, Umoja?
It sure was, yeah.
Yeah, we could ban those.
I think so, too. Mogao in a pretty good spot. Not as much offense in the build as we typically see from Mogao. He was Stone of Gaia because of the
Still
knockup.
finds a way to be weird, you know? Stone
Yeah.
of Gaia is not something we're seeing too often.
No, and there is one knockup on the other side, so it...
There is... Oh, there's 2. The Merlin knockup.
Oh, true. The Merlin
there you
knockup,
go.
too. Yeah. So you got 2.
Oh, this is huge. This guy's big brain.
I mean, Gaia's, like, fine if you don't feel like you need immediate defense in your lane. And against RDO, she lane bullies you, but you can also kind of sit under tower, and she can't do that much to you from that distance. So I suppose it makes some sense there. And I assume this is going to be an E-Staff from him next. I can't imagine. It's either that or Gem. Those are the only things that Fortified Scepter build into. So I don't think that it's going to be Gem, but it is Mogao, and I will not say for sure.
You are a brave man for even hypothesizing about a Lamogao build
Yeah,
as
that's true.
Pyromancer is pulled out here. Eye Silence, no Omi.
Sap has to use the beads as Kalas blinks in that Cataclysm, and Goodnight Nick seem happy with that exchange. Kalas has been pretty aggressive with these Cataclysms, and even though he's fallen twice, has usually gotten good value out of them.
He has, and now Kalas in a position where, without Blink, is going to have to play pretty passively for the next 2 minutes or so. Cataclysm, you know, is a great ability, but you got to be in range to land it, and that's why we see this Blink pick up for the most part inside of these Gebs. But I don't think we're going to see too much aggression rooted from Goodnight Nick in the near future. This is a team that really does like to go for those late game phases and already playing at a deficit. I don't think we're going to see them try and fight into that anytime soon. So it's up to Team Joystick on the other end to try and force Goodnight Nick into a situation in which they have to take these fights.
Did Silence get hit by that Cataclysm as well? Because his beads are on the same cooldown basically as Sap's, but I thought it only, maybe it clipped Eye Silence on the edge.
Could have. I didn't see it
I didn't see it either.
particularly. Maybe it was just a pre-beats. He was worried about getting hit either way.
Hey man, sometimes I like to give supports some a little bit of lip for how they use their beads because they're not used to it. You know,
They don't get any opportunities.
they really don't. And sometimes support players are they just totally freak it.
Who's got the worst support beads?
Jake has had some really
Jake has had some
Jake's
poor
beads
ones.
are rough.
He just uses them, I think. I think he
Or
thinks
doesn't.
it's like it's a go button, or he forgets it's there.
Right. Yeah. It has to be on the mind sometimes. And look, you know, he's gotten better. Sometimes it just takes some time. You know.
Which role is the best at using their beads? I think you're probably
Mids.
going to say mid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mids.
I'm
It's
thinking
either mids or ADCs.
I'm thinking it's probably junglers. because they have to think really hard about when to use their beads, because the junglers are in a unique position as a squishy initiator that more often than any other role, they have
Thank
to
God.
pre-beads.
Gold Fury gets pulled, so I don't have to handle this nonsense from Mifflin.
just
But
right.
of course, Goodnight Nick knows it's happening. Blink in from Sarpei. Streak Up is going to go up into that Astral Barrage
Reset.
and try and put some damage back Sarpei's away, but Sarpei is ready to go. Beads were nicely timed that time from Sarpei. But that no relic usage from Streak Up, just 2 ultimates for both of Sarpei's relics and his Mystic Rush. I feel like Goodnight Nick kind of, again, come away with a slight win in that instance. Is Blinkin from Ice Ice. Sap
Good Aegis.
in trouble, but a very good Aegis from the Raijin and a good ultimate.
Sup?
Fears Ice Ice back into the tower, but it's not going to be enough because Kalas was right
Triple
there
stun?
with a big Geb Shield, a triple stun from Silence, which you don't see very often, as Ice Ice is sent back. Echrome fires off some shots, but a lot of them
Slow.
were into Wolfie's Aegis. Sarpei trying to find him, and he does underneath the tier 1.
Sarpei using that overhead kick to immune the slow from Wolfie and just chase out that kill. Lamogo shows up a little bit late, but going to descend into madness nonetheless, just going to put some pressure into this tier 1.
Deathwalker's here, and he's going to put some pressure onto Echrome, who has to beads in order to giddy up away. That little bit of root around the RDO ends up causing him some problems. And Goodnight Nick trade 1-for-1, but with Sap being as far ahead as he is, I think anytime you're taking a 1-for-1 and Sap's the one, it's a good play for Goodnight Nick.
Yeah, Goodnight Nick not necessarily too upset with how that one pans out. And you can see it reflected inside of the gold. Was nearly 1,000 in favor of Team Joystick just a moment ago, now cut down to about 400. It was around 2,800 experience in favor of Joystick, and that's a pretty large dip now down to 800. This is a dead even game 15 minutes in, and can't you feel it? The Goodnight Nick curse on the enemy team. You're falling into their grasp, falling into their pace. They've effectively slowed down this game and have effectively evened it out as well.
Well, it's because it's probably closer to nighttime now in the Smite universe, right? Like, you probably start fighting in the day.
What are you saying?
Well, their name is Goodnight Nick.
You're so stupid, bro. You broke me. That's the first time I think.
Mifflin had legitimate fear in his eyes when I looked at him because he had no idea where I was going with that.
I thought it was like
And
a
that's-
Batman joke, like you're trying to take back the night or something. But I
No,
was like,
their name is Goodnight Nick.
yeah, I guess it is, dude. Who's Nick in this case? Is it Team Joystick or is it someone on their team? I want to know the lore of that name.
I have been thinking about that ever since I saw their name. I really don't know where it came
That's a long time. You saw this name a while ago.
from. Yeah, I did, and I've been thinking, truthfully, every time I see it, I think, who is Nick?
It's
And
a deep question.
Yeah, who is Nick? And now we're figuring it out that they're better in the late game because it gets closer to nighttime, which is where they're more comfortable.
There is no day-night cycle on the Smite map, but that would be a cool, like, kind of gameplay hook, though.
Well, there's there's seasons on the Smite map.
Yeah.
That is in the lore now. We're getting a snow map next.
The first snow of the Battleground of the Gods comes 8 years into our lifespan here.
That's right. It's been a long summer.
Well, we gotta assume that fall was like the month we're in, right? So stupid.
Anyways, it's a pretty even game right now. I mean, 6-3 in kills, Joystick in the lead, but Goodnight Nick has really won every single scrap since then. 3-1-3 for Sarpei, but Ice Ice has been able to keep pace on the actual fights as Streak Up uses the Aegis to immune that Mystic
Good
Rush,
Lord.
but Sarpei still putting in the damage.
Ugh.
Streak Up does get up into the sky, and that's going to buy him some pretty good time as Deathwalker TPs in, and the shield is there from Kalas right on time. Streak Up buys all the time that's necessary, and now it's Joystick who needs to get on the run. Wolfie nearly caught Silence with that Vortex, but just able to get out of range. Nice play there from Streak Up. Perfectly timed Aegis, waits it out, and Kalas and Deathwalker are there for the backup.
But I gotta think, had Sap7 just used Raiju, that kill probably goes their way. The dot damage in the air can't be immune by a Geb Shield. Stone Shield cannot be applied when you're outside the playfield, so maybe Sap7 could have put out a little bit more DPS inside of that exchange, but still, sending Streak Up back to base does not feel awful. Team Joystick would have loved to have gone towards the Gold Fury with that small win, but a rotation from Deathwalker puts the kibosh to that play line.
Gold Fury's up and available, but with Taiko Drums and Mystic Rush down, feel like it's not going to be Joystick who are the initiators here. But maybe, I mean, Deathwalker has no teleport, Streak Up no Aegis, and Mogao putting pressure on this right-hand side, knowing that he has his teleport available. As Wolfie and Sap take an aggressive trade in mid, and certainly Wolfie comes out ahead of that, especially after a nice double stun from Deathwalker. But Sap, nice and patient with those purification beads, and Sap may be willing to take that heavy trade because he's got the Emoja on his team.
Yeah, just that sustain going to come in a big clutch here and allow to stick around inside of this fight. But maybe health's not what he's concerned about. It seems like Team Joystick are positioning aggressive, but Sap7 does not have a lot of mana to work with here. And Deathwalker's been on tour for the last 2 or 3 minutes. He has not head back to that lane. So in exchange, Team Joystick, or rather Lamogao, able to strip away that tier 1 tower in solo.
Looks like he's still sticking around. Ice on this side of the map, but looks like he's more focused on the farm. Deathwalker, despite being elsewhere than solo lane, still in a good spot. I mean, still the same level as Mogao, even though Mogao just soloed 3 to 4 waves and got a tier 1 tower. Good example of Deathwalker utilizing a lead to try and impact the map elsewhere and not falling behind because of it.
Yeah, I'd argue that Deathwalker's rotation still was so impactful. I think Team Joystick was in a position where they could have stripped the Gold Fury very easily had Deathwalker not been there. So great rotation for the Artie to make sure that this lead for Joystick doesn't get much further than where it was, and truthfully, it's gone. It's 200 now in favor of Goodnight Nick.
Yeah, that's what we call an even game at this point. It's awarding Sigil right away for Mogao. I was wondering what starter item he was going to go with this build, and starting to go the Sigil route, you can upgrade this into a couple of these really good mitigation options, and you already get some mitigation there for the Cthulhu whenever you use the ultimate, especially whenever you got your passive as well. So maybe just trying to double down on being able to take as much damage as humanly possible in these team fights.
Yeah, this is a distinct shift up from what he normally goes towards. Generally, it's that Hero's Axe decision that he likes just for a little bit of additional, defense, a little bit more offense as well, and that burst of damage.
A lot of shield.
A lot of shield, but
feels good.
Instead, this time it is going to be the Warding Sigil as Gold Fury is pulled out, dropped down to 50%. Silence holds on to it for a while.
Riptide bounces Kalas back, and that is going to be the go button for the Riptide and the River's Rebuke. But again, Streak Up just buying so much time and using that Astral Barrage. Sap gets poked down low, and a good Cataclysm once again from Kalas. But Mogao undeterred, going to go in, descent into madness right in the midst of Goodnight Nick, and they just don't have the damage to take him down quite yet as Sarpei is hunting Streak Up once again, but Kalas is right there, but they grouped up a bit too much. Mogao and Echrome are going to combine to take down the dual lane of Goodnight Nick, and Joystick finally able to get the ball rolling in these team fights.
Man, Sarpei put in so much work inside of that fight. The double Prana Onslaught to apply the slow allows the rest of Team Joystick to rotate their way in there. Lamogao had chose his own battle. He was taking a 2v1 in his own right and says, hey, mine's not going so great. We don't have the damage output here. Seems like Sarpei's already done enough of the damage. Just rolls through, finds the double knockup, and puts Goodnight Nick in a very bad position now. The duo lane dead for another 20 seconds, and Team Joystick able to pick up the Gold Fury for themselves, and even potentially the Pyromancer if they so choose, and it doesn't seem like that is what they choose. Sarpei headed back to base.
A little surprised at Sarpei's target selection in this game, because it's been clear that Streak Up is his focus. Wolfie has really been allowed to free cast this entire game. Merlin, one of those gods that I feel like when you're playing jungle, that's kind of what you want to see. That's kind of free food for a god like Robin. Why do you think he's going for Streak Up instead?
It's just easy target selection for him. He's been hovering around the edge of these engagements, so when he's hovering around that left-hand side, he comes into contact with Streak Up and Kalas first. I think given the opportunity, if Wolfie presents himself, probably would go for that target, as Robin has one of the better matchups into that god. Can't really peel off Robin whatsoever, even inside of the arcane stance, that pull in. Yeah, that doesn't work. Overhead kick slams him. Oh, you're in the ice stance, you're trying to slow me? No, that doesn't work. You just turned around. I overhead kicked that. Now you're probably dead, but Wolfie's been playing very far back inside of these fights, making sure that he knows where Sarpei is every single time before he engages. So Sarpei has to work on his feet a little bit, work on the tips of his toes and find something.
I think he's doing pretty well so far. 3-1-5, and now he's got the Bumba's Spear. As both junglers have upgraded their starters, Pyromancer goes Joystick's way, and Ice is coming forward alongside Wolfie, but they don't find a whole lot as Joystick not necessarily looking for a fight. Spear versus Hammer, both of these gods utilize both pretty well, but interesting to me that they kind of split the difference. Ice goes Hammer, Sarpei goes Spear.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about Bumba's Hammer. It's got great stats on it. I mean, I won't mince words there. The stats on the item are legitimately good, but I feel like if you're getting value from the passive of Bumba's Hammer inside of a team fight, you're probably already winning the team fight.
Yeah, Bumba's Hammer, I mean, I guess maybe it's the CDR difference. I mean, you get 10% there. Sarpei is looking for Streak Up again, and again, he's got his boys there to help, but this time Echrome, look at that damage. that Centaurus just did. Are you kidding me? He just crunched him from a distance, and then the masterful shot to finish it off. Only 10 seconds left on the cooldown for Streak Up's Aegis, and he was missing it for sure.
Yeah, Masterful Shot is an unmissable ability that just slammed that guy for 340 damage. Streak Up cannot be happy with how that one pans out, but Echrome certainly happy with how that one works out for him. And that's the power of Chiron with this New Age Hunter build. Essentially, the entirety of the Maestry, Heartseeker, Transcendence. This guy's just a mage right now. I mean, his auto attacks happen to also slam, but he's not shooting them out super often. The abilities, though, yeah, those do damage.
Damn, Chiron's so cool, man. I love that. I love that about Chiron. Definitely one of my favorite hunters as a traditional mage player. Fire Giant is the play now for Joystick. Is Streak Up still dead for 7 more seconds? And it's a frenzy popped. Fire Giant getting low, and it is secured by Team Joystick in a really good River's Rebuke as well. It's trapped Kalos in the midst of the team. Sarpei going to find his 4th as Mogao still surging forward, looking for a knockup. May not be able to find it as the rest of the team does get away, but look at the damage. Was that Echrome that nearly just soloed Wolfie with just the ultimate? My goodness, Wolfie went from 100 to 0.
Yeah, Echrome may have been allowed to farm up a little bit too much this game. Now with Fire Giant as well to boost that scaling, he's doing too much, and I'm confident in saying that. And Goodnight Nick might be able to echo those thoughts as Team Joystick barrel through the Tier 1 mid tower, the Tier 2 mid tower, and still have 15 seconds to play with before this Geb rejoins the map.
He does have Cataclysm up, but no blink when he respawns.
Or Ankh.
Might have a difficult time getting in. The wave clear is good here from Goodnight Nick. Maybe good enough to send them back. Mogao's dashed away, but does have teleport. Sap may not have gotten the memo as he's going to get his dash interrupted. Stun.
Bro, what?
Beads are up, and we're just saving him for next game, I suppose. Sarpei, it does go in, and now Goodnight Nick might be able to make this happen. Cataclysm doesn't find anything, though, from Kalos, and those Astral Barrage shots aren't enough. There is some good mobility from Goodnight Nick, but certainly not good enough in comparison to the Riptide. Is Mogao going to try and slow down Deathwalker and Kalos? Deathwalker does find a root. We'll be able to find a stun on the back end, but as you called, a good cleanse from Echrome. Chase is still on, though, from Goodnight Nick, though I can't imagine a world where they actually catch Joystick.
Hey, Deathwalker can stick close on his own all he wants, but that's all he is right now, on his own. And now Goodnight Nick deep in Team Joystick territory, may not want to actually take this fight against a Fire Giant squad.
Chrome's ultimate has already been used and didn't get nearly as much value, but how about Sarpei? But that Assassinate is good from Ice Ice Baby. Sarpei, one last shot will do it, and it's Wolfie's auto attack that gets it done. Nearly turned around once again by Sarpei, but this time, Goodnight Nick a little bit too prepared.
Overhead kick used too early inside of that one is stunned out by Ice Ice, immediately forced to use the beads, and Sarpei loses his life immediately afterward, but that's all off the back of Sap 7 just being slow on the uptake. My man was standing on tower line while the rest of his team was using their movement abilities to disengage. It was pretty clear what the call there was for Team Joystick, and now 2 members that had Fire Giant no longer do. Sarpei re-engages, trying to peel out for Sap 7, lose out on a lot of his resources, and then dies a little bit later on. Sap 7 being that, you know, a late game Raijin, you probably want Fire Giant on that guy so he can one-shot just about anybody, and no longer an option there either. At least able to maintain Fire Giant on their ADC is Team Joystick, so that one remaining Tier 2 tower could still fall down.
It is on the right-hand side, which is typically not where you want to go with your FG because you want to get as much pressure opposite the Fire Giant side, but I think in this instance where it's probably unlikely that you're able to get a Phoenix now with only, less than a minute left on your Fire Giant buff, no beads up for Sarpei for 80 seconds, so more than a minute until those come back up. Think that it might just be the right call to play it a little bit more conservative and head on over to this right-hand side, grab that Tier 2 and set yourself up for another fire.
Hey, to speak to your point earlier about how mid laners are the best users of beads.
Okay, well, Sap didn't do us a whole lot of favors there.
Well, he maintains his beads, so he can get involved inside of these team fights still. Sarpei uses his beads and dies. Which is worse?
Probably keeping your beads up and dying when you could have beads and lived.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
junglers are so sick, man.
Sarpei did have a very good beads earlier, so maybe, no, you're not right. I know I'm right. Right side, Tier 2 is the call, but good damage onto Mogao from Wolfie. It wasn't a Sigil of the Old Guard there for Mogao. Instead, it's Infused Sigil, a little bit more offensive-oriented. As he takes damage, eventually just going to build up and explode out a little magical damage in the midst of a team fight. And when you're massive, yeah, kind of like Pridwin, when you're massive and in that Descent into Madness, that'll work pretty well. As Sap once again the furthest forward. This time it's Tycho Drums and Rivers Rebuke to save his life. That Tycho Drums got next to no value, but Mogal's in a great spot. Blinking from Sarpei as well, and Streak Up nearly just got one-tapped. Wolfie also on his last legs, but he's going to get a good final shot in and take down Mogal, but E-Chrome finds Ice. Not a lot of ultimates left in the tank now for Team Joystick, because it's only Mystic Rush, and Sarpei uses it as a gap close, and everyone else from Goodnight Nick just takes a slow step backwards and ends up backing up, as Sap is right back where he wants to be, way further forward than the rest of the team.
Yeah, Sap7 is one of the most aggressive players I think I've ever seen. With zero regard for his own positioning, his team's positioning, or the enemies, he is going to get in there regardless. But Sarpei held onto his ultimate for so long. Wolfie essentially standing in front of him at like no HP. Streak Up as well. Gotta think that there were opportunities for him to get involved a little bit earlier on inside of that fight, but a bit of a questionable late ultimate from the Robin to try and gap close, as you called out. Does not gap close or deal damage inside of that fight. So Sarpei deals a lot on the initial engagement thanks to his blink, and then not a whole lot after that.
Still was able to force Streak Up back. Maybe the fact that both Wolfie and Streak Up had Aegis available deterred him, but I'm definitely of the opinion that I'd like those to be on cooldown.
Yeah, you got to force those.
Yeah, you got to force those at some point. Certainly not willing to let them just continue it, but maybe E-Chrome is the one to force them. Is
that allowed?
He's doing it all, man. He just one-tapped that Scorpion, and I think that he might do the same to some members of Goodnight Nick. Also, E-Chrome has the most wards placed in this game. Can my man's do?
Can he get some help out here, bro?
What can he do?
Yeah, E-Chrome multi-talented this time around.
Nice
blink.
What a Cataclysm by Kalas. Gets everyone, and E-Chrome included is now on the run. Here comes the Tycho Drums again, not doing much to Deathwalker. I think that last one hit him for 63. Count them, 63. That's not a whole lot out of that Tycho Drums. Only 20 or 30% pen, I suppose, for Sap. Maybe was using a CC variant of the shot to have it do that little damage. But Kalas really got that fight exactly where Goodnight Nick wanted. Look at the carries relics now on Joystick. None for Sap or for E-Chrome going into this next engagement.
They are at least able, Team Joystick that is, to resustain a little bit thanks to the efforts of I's Silence. Still has his ultimate as well, so no Omi, but could get some back.
Dash in from Sap, and where did Deathwalker's health go this time? Centaurus is going to get the job done. E-Chrome finds his fourth as he continues to be the carry right now for Joystick, and it's Enhanced Fire Giant now pulled by Team Joystick. Sap is the one, or no, it is Silence tanking it up. Kalas, Cataclysm nearly up, but Blink still on cooldown for a little bit. Not a lot of great secure here for Joystick, and there's the Frenzy as they go in. Kalas going to try and find a Cataclysm, and he does, but not a lot of follow-up this time. And Wolfie is just getting shredded by the backline. Mogal does it. 5 in a row now for E-Chrome as he found Ice, and Goodnight Nick. Goodnight Nick, if they're Nick in this situation, I suppose. That's an solid end call from me. Game 1 done by Team Joystick.
Man, and it's so late in the game, Aggro. It's got to be nighttime right now.
Can I do it again? We figured out who Nick is. It's the Chaos team. Good night, Nick. Thank you very much.
Get your hands together, chat, and give Aggro a nice little clap for his end call this time around as Team Joystick is able to put down the Titan. Congratulations on a great Fire Giant team fight immediately into the win.
Mogal just created so much space right there, and then the long-range damage from the Tycho Drums, the Centaurus. I mean, they had kind of had all that long-range damage. Are you good, Mifflin? I mean, we figured out who Nick was.
Yeah,
we should all feel really good.
Good night, Nick is Nick. That's Aggro. That's my Aggro impression right there.
Okay, well, they didn't have to know about the finger guns, okay?
You did a sound effect.
Well, they didn't have to know what the sound effect meant.
That's worse.
We clearly need a break. We'll be right back to break down game number 1.
Playing fair, nah, I ain't playing fair. Asked her why she staying there, she said she don't know. I had to ask some more, but I really had to go and get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she got hop on. She know I'm the top dog, I know she a hot one. But Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my bop on, yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she got hop on. She know I'm the top dog, I know she a hot one. But Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on.
She said with my high sauce, she ain't with no knock off. See them, we gon' pop off. Uber
good, getting dropped off. Kicking in the door, we ain't knock on it. Ice on your beat, then you know it got the bop to it. Running up the streams like the stock market. They ain't with no beef, tell them stop talking. Rock a goatee like I'm Hulk Hogan. Put on R&B, then I hit her with the slow stroking. Ooh. Then I told her she could hop on it, bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she could hop on. She know I'm the top dog, I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she could hop on. She know I'm the top dog, I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah. Double B's on me, yeah. Double C's on the dough. Double D's dunking, no. Going nuts for the flow. Tank on E, F it, bro. I'm a G, let him know. Who is he? ISO. Who is he? ISO. Pop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she wanna give me neck, gotta keep the top on. But she got the top off while I got topped off. She was taking too long. Now I'm finna nod off. So I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she can hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she can hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah.
Wait, what did it win?
You win the respect.
You're telling me an alien wore this?
Perfect. Okay, that was a good cut.
Messaging him to mute.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course, and I can probably watch a stream on the side.
Content's gonna look good.
Pretty good.
Fans, game one goes the way of Team Joystick. It was a closely contested battle, but ultimately felt like Echrome just ended up doing a little bit too much. Of course, a little help from Mogao on that backline dive, and it was Goodnight Nick who took the game one loss. But Mifflin, I mean, overall, a pretty close game. But, of course, if you want to be checking out all the VODs of not just the games like this that you just saw, but SPL, SCC, you can find it all at youtube.com/SmitePro. Make sure you're checking that out. All of our good stuff. Not just VODs. Actually, that's Smite VOD. I'm realizing that I did the wrong ad read. Again, it's Sunday, if you guys couldn't tell. Smite Pro for all of our extraneous content that we do, like all of our content days, some team sit-downs, all that kind of stuff. It's all very good. So make sure you're checking it out, youtube.com/SmitePro. Mifflin, I was saying earlier about this game one. Please talk about it now.
Yeah, so that game did go 30 minutes, which means that in Smite canon, that was nighttime, and we would thought that Goodnight Nick was actually trying to put Team Joystick to bed. We thought that maybe Joystick did hold the moniker of Nick, but unfortunately for Goodnight Nick is Nick.
Yeah, we figured that one out too. Sarpei had a really good game. Interesting that the enhanced fire giant is nocturnal. I guess we can talk about that later, as I'm sure we will during this game. Overall, I mean, Sarpei really made a big impact on this Raven. Through the early game, he was able to make the vast majority of these plays. This play was absolutely nasty. Who leads with the ultimate?
Everybody, you have to.
No, I lead with the root, so I can
that's
hit
why
it.
you're butts. Okay. That's why you think Robin isn't good.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. That was a crazy play. That was a big.
You said it
turning point.
earlier. That's like saying you follow up your damage with Sunder.
No, I just set up my damage with Sunder in some instances. Echrome was the real carry when it came to the late game, though. 26,000 player damage for the ADC, 14 Joystick, an absolutely incredible performance. I mean, everyone was doing their job here on Joystick. Silence had a couple really good Rivers Rebukes, a couple really good Riptides. The healing was obviously very impactful. Sap did damage as well, but also maybe didn't do quite as much as we expected. I'd say for the player who has maybe impressed me the most for Joystick, it's almost good to have an off game in some ways and let the rest of the team step up. I think that it shows a more holistic approach here for Joystick.
Yeah, holistic if you mean that Echrome did all the heavy lifting, right?
I
That's
do,
the
yeah.
holistic approach here, as Echrome does put out 26,000 damage in Game 1 this time around. And I think that this damage number that we're looking at right now might be a sneak peek at the bans list. I don't think Chiron makes his way through again.
Deathwalker over 20k as well, 2,000 healing for him, so was impactful on that RDO for sure. Worth noting that the Chiron actually healed more than the RDO in that game, so that's a little interesting tidbit for you from Game 1. Chiron, not really a god that I feel like you can afford to ban top 3, though, right? I mean, doesn't that open up too much?
They had so many targeted bans in the first game. You got to think at least one of them could be the Chiron, especially if Echrome's doing that. Or
Sure.
at least put some more emphasis on his lane on the other side. Maybe send Ice over and try and gank out before he's allowed to hit critical mass.
And Sarpei did spend a lot of time over on that side trying to make sure that he hit critical mass pretty well. Let's see what happens. Picks and bans ready for game number 2. I think that maybe you're right. I mean, it was stuff like Cabrakan ban in game number 1. If Mogal kind of does that to you on the Cthulhu, how much worse could Cabrakan really be? I feel like that might be some of the answers. And it is a targeted ban for something that Joystick just played, but it isn't the Chiron, it's this Cthulhu instead.
Look, Cthulhu had a great performance. I'm not going to take away from that, but Cthulhu is not the reason they won that game. Sure, he was a great pillar of CC inside of the team fights. We saw Wolfie legitimately get evaporated thanks to that Ethereal Staff passive proc in the Descent into Madness. But this is what I'm talking about, man. So far, 3 bans, none of them I would consider meta, and all of them targeted, and one of them even towards Mulan. What's your stance on Mulan? I've been a huge proponent of that god, not very good. How are you feeling about it? Like, are you?
I don't know, man.
Good?
I think you look at the kit and you just like look at the numbers and you're like, this god has to be good.
She's really, really good in lane. Like the first 6 levels, you're probably
Nutty.
one of the most dominant lane bullies in the game.
Yeah.
But Soul Lane's pretty easy to just kind of hang back and get to level 6, and then once you're there, once you've got your first like defense item built out, and that is generally the first item for these Soul Laners, there's not a lot of threat from this Mulan anymore.
Yeah, I think she dives backline pretty well. I think her ultimate's really good. People seem to think that ultimate's bad. I don't understand how.
I think if you're shooting, here's my secret tech for Mulan. If you shoot the bow in the ultimate, you're probably not using it right, because if you use the
Unless
knock
it's going
up,
to kill, right.
Unless it's going to kill. But if you use the knock up, it sets up perfectly for your third ability. You can just hook shot your way in there.
Right. No, I agree. You want to you instant cancel after the
Yep.
second part. It's a massive route into a big knockup. That's good.
That is all right, but you're also kind of like rooted at the same time, so
Who
you
cares? I'm a tank.
generally die like
Nah,
right
I'm a tank.
after.
Just build Pridwin. You're fine.
Okay, well Pridwin is pretty good.
There
Maybe
you go.
with Infused Sigil making its way in too, so
There you go.
just be slamming.
That could be the call, as it is Hell first pick for Goodnight Nick. This was banned in game number 1 and with Joystick in that first pick position. So this time it's left open. Goodnight Nick take it, assuming for Wolfie, but could potentially be for Deathwalker over there in solo if they're emulating what the Camelot Kings like to do.
And Joystick on the other end take Heimdall in their first pick selection, and Sobek. There is a lot of gods out there that are incredibly dominant in the current meta, both North American SCC, even the European SCC. We've seen all these gods, where I'm alluding to the meta ones. If I had to list them all, it would take the entirety of this pick spans. And they're all just kind of falling by the way.
Oh, like chalk. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, no. Finally, bro. Finally, someone's picking up when I'm laying down. Chalk locked in. You're talking about that flex potential. This could be jungle. This could be solo. This could be ADC, man. I don't
Could
care.
be mid.
Could be mid.
Yeah.
Literally, you can put them anywhere.
We got options.
Oh,
for
hey,
our
there's
boy
one.
Chalk.
There's
Yeah,
one.
That's one of the good picks.
That's
for
actually
sure. Look,
one.
Chalk has looked pretty good. I mean, Sino played it and kind of ran it a little bit on that pick, but I think it is pretty decent in the jungle. We saw, who was it? Was it Haddix who played Chalk solo? Or
I don't
maybe
think he won that game.
Well, yeah, but
It wasn't his fault.
that's unlucky. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing you can really do about that. Chalk definitely on the rise a little bit, and always excited to see it, as it is Merlin this time around for Sapis. His Raijin was banned away. I mean, you get Helgeb. That's really good, right? Like, you've got to feel really good about those 2 picks.
I think that if you've got a hell composition, though, wouldn't you just prefer the Khepri? I mean, sure, Stone Shield when you're already sustaining probably feels pretty good, but now...
I think the damage actually helps. I think sometimes hell
okay.
comps like lack damage, and Geb brings way more damage.
But are you really worried about damage when you got a Chalk on your team?
Now that's the question. You know Chalk's bringing the damage. That's the one thing about him. It looks like Joystick think this is in the solo lane based on this Loki ban. We'll see if that's where it ends up going. Certainly the flex potential feels pretty good as Mogao continues to get God's banned away from his God pool. It's now a Jormungandr ban there for Goodnight Nick, trying to keep those Guardians that deal good damage out of his hands, because that seems like exactly where he likes to go time and time again.
We might be primed and ready for one of Lamogao's signature picks, man.
Don't
I
say
would
Kumbhakarna.
love to see, now as I rack my brain for a secondary decision, Hades come through here for Joystick.
Yeah, I'd rather see that. Look, I've seen Mogao play Kumbhakarna solo.
A lot.
A lot. I watched it when it was in SPL.
Yep.
I watched it when he
put people to sleep. That's why it's Goodnight Nick, right? He's gonna.
Oh.
Oh wait, no, he's Joystick though.
Yeah, he's on Joystick.
Yeah, you're right.
You were close though. That was.
Well, he's gonna do it too. So it's Sobek solo. That's not Mogao.
That isn't, because it's a normal Guardian to see him.
Yeah,
solo.
no shot. He's taking Sylvanas there just to be a weirdo.
Well.
Well, Sylvanas actually, with the minor rework, giving you additional cooldown when you slam the wave with your first ability, might not be as bad as I'm currently making out with the cadence of my voice. Could be okay.
Could be okay. I'm interested to see where it's going to go. That's the one thing with Joystick, man. One of the reasons that Gore loves to watch them and why they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the EU SCC. You've got no idea what's happening the vast majority of the time with their picks in solo or the builds. And they still win, and that makes it cool. No doubt about it. Dodgy, the pickup for Ice Ice, one of his signatures, a god that he has played a ton of in his competitive career. And Sarpei going back to that Raven. Uller this time around in the duo lane for Streak Up. One of those gods that you were probably asking for near the top of the
That god's
draft.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought that we were seeing a lot of damage come out from Chiron last time around. Well, Uller can do similar damage and from similar range as well. One-shot potential certainly there if you were able to land that axe. I like this composition for Goodnight Nick, and I think Daji rounding it out as that CC core to make sure Cataclysm works is pretty nice.
Plenty of CC and damage for this Goodnight Nick roster. It's a matter of if this hell can stay up, as it is going to be Sobek solo for Mogao. Thank goodness, because he nearly got counterpicked in this instance, Mifflin. I mean, think about Sylvanas solo and how much you're using your auto attacks to clear the wave.
All the time.
Chalk destroys auto attackers over there because the rain slows down their attack speed.
So true, Aggro. So true, man.
Okay, think about the changes that Chalk has gone through in his lifetime, okay?
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. When Chalk first came out, he was busted.
He was super strong.
Because he was damage immune in the ult.
Was that true? I thought it was damage mitigation.
No, it was like pure damage immunity.
No shot. He was...
I'm pretty sure he was straight up damage immune. I'll look it up while
all right, go on with your point.
So, I'm pretty sure he was damage immune, and he had a massive attack speed slow on the rain, whether you were close to him or if he axed through then rained. Okay,
yep.
He lost.
It also stacked slow really hard.
Yes,
you were in both.
He lost like all of those things after that. His current situation, he's now like 80% damage mitigation on the ult.
Pretty nice.
And he got the attack speed slow back on the rain. So he's close to where he was before.
Yeah, it's just that Chalk is in a position now where like his damage just feels so conditional. Like, how often are you using the 1-2 combo and like teleporting through somebody, so hitting him with that proc? Not many people actually know this. When you turn into like that little sparkly dust as you teleport to your axe, that applies damage to everybody you pass through, and then you can apply damage yet again once you swing your axe around and you get to your target. How often are you able to like really do that?
I mean, it's difficult, but
that's hard.
Doable. And now it's a lot easier because in 8.9, his torrent cooldown, the 2, went from 13 seconds and now scales 13 to 9.
Is Chalk good?
I don't think he's that bad. I'm not even memeing.
I think he is definitely okay. I think he finds himself in a similar position to Mulan in that you're a pretty decent lane bully. You got great sustain. Not many people want to take the fight against you because they can't match your survivability inside the lane, but I feel like he's outscaled.
Now Wolfie in trouble in the mid lane. Sarpei is here, and this is not what you want to see for the Hell comp. Sap gets the early first blood, and Sarpei again active on the map early.
Yeah, that's what Raven does best, man. It just blinks in. Oh, you're in a mobile mage. Probably shouldn't have been standing that far up. You're going to die every single time. Wolfie does hold on to his beads this time around. Maybe could have used it to avoid that root and slow, and maybe, potentially, could have survived, but does not like his odds considering the positioning inside the lane with which he resided. So heads back to base inside of a body bag this time around. First blood credit over to Sap7, and we know about that Merlin damage. That stuff pops off, especially on these neutral objectives.
And you know Sap's going to be positioning aggressively to do it.
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, there is no doubt about where he's going to be. It's going to be far up.
Wherever the enemies are.
Wherever the enemies are, and if Sap can hit him, he's going to be trying. Nice axe there from Streak Up, put Silence down to half HP, but piloting the Sylvanas means that poke means quite a bit less in this lane, and perfect timing because now Streak Up doesn't have the ability to clear the wave and sets up what should be a fairly easy purple buff invade for Joystick.
Callus going to try his best to put up a defense here. Blink in, and I believe
Got it.
able to strip that one away. Unfortunate for Team Joystick, but Joystick at least able to force the experience off of Streak Up as Sarpei heads to mid again and shuts down Wolfie for a second time in as many minutes.
Didn't even need the help from Sap that time around, was just able to make it happen all on his lonesome. Blink in, Mystic Rush. Heavy Mace early in the game feels pretty good. Getting even that little bit of flat pen makes a big difference in those damage departments.
Honestly, with Sarpei on this pace, he might even just forego Jotun's Wrath in this first slot, go straight into Brawler's Beatstick, and continually try and shut down Wolfie. Wolfie's gone for a pretty expensive build here inside of this first slot. Could be a Chronos Pendant, could be a Rada Tahuti like we've seen from some of these SPL mid laners, but when you're going for a build this expensive on a god like Hell, who generally likes to go towards defense in that second slot, already falling twice, could be a while until Wolfie's feeling any bit tanky.
Yeah, I feel like Wolfie did go Rod first in the last game on the Merlin, but maybe on the Hell it might be Chronos Pendant instead. Either way, pretty expensive, as you were mentioning, so a ways away from finishing that most likely, as it is a Brawler's Beatstick first
how does
for
he do it?
Sarpei.
I'm talking about Sarpei, not me.
I don't believe you. I think you were talking about you. Sarpei looking for the long flank here, heading to this left-hand side, trying to circumnavigate some potential wards. They might have seen him on those oracles initially, so he's not going to be able to find anything on this left-hand side. Heads back towards mid, but will be spotted out this time by another ward. Good ward coverage now for Goodnight Nick at the very least.
What an A+ word. You're like Christopher Columbus. Circumnavigate, man?
That's right.
That's nice. Maybe Callus looking to circumnavigate the map himself.
How does he do it? Talking about Callus, not me, of course.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
As you
Callus
shouldn't.
is headed over towards this red buff, maybe concerned with a bit of an invade from Team Joystick, but that concern is unfounded as he walks his way back towards the left-hand side of the map. And with the pace now starting to slow down a little bit, we were at a kill per minute. Now we're not at a kill per minute anymore. Team Joystick, though, going to keep up the pressure and try again on this purple buff. Successful this time.
Not often that the Uller lane loses pressure, but I think that's a testament to what Sylvanas.
Who do you throw that at?
Casper.
Oh, word.
Yeah, he doesn't like him.
That wily ghost.
Yeah, well, he's friendly too, but maybe a little bit wily. Good cleanse coming from Wolfie as Sarpei has used the blink and the ult, and Wolfie's still A-okay. Ice gonna go in now with that Trickster Spirit, looking for Sarpei, and he's gonna get yanked on in, and you're right, he's so dead, but so is Wolfie as Sap used Flicker underneath the tier 1 tower, beads out that slow, and he is going to get cut to pieces. Ice with a double kill for Goodnight Nick.
Yeah, Sap7 making sure that Wolfie does notch a third on his death column, but maybe committing his own life in that situation. Not the most valuable considering he's got a bit of a bounty on his head. So Ice able to find himself a double kill and put himself in the lead in that same note. And Daji is a god you do not want to have a lead. She's got great 1v1 potential. We saw what happened between Lasbra and Twig just a couple of days ago. It was a lot of damage, pretty fast, and Daji came out ahead just about every single time.
I think Daji is the best late game assassin in the 1v1 because
in the 1v1, I might give you that.
Maybe even straight up the best. Everything she does scales at 100%. Every ability has 100% scaling.
But she's also uniquely in a position, and then everything that she does puts herself in like melee range.
Yeah, but that's where assassins need to be anyways, because then they can kill Sap, just like this, although he finds actually a really good route to get back into the jungle. Shield comes in onto Ice, and Sap is somehow still alive. Those jukes were phenomenal, but extra because of that movement speed from Silenced Heavenly Agility as Wolfie now takes a tier 2 tower shot. Sarpei
body block
did just die, but he gets yanked on back. Now Call-Us underneath the tier 2. What is going on in between these towers? Echrome gonna send one back, and Ice steps up for a moment. He gets his ultimate back up right on time.
Good heal.
Wolfie's heal doesn't make a difference. Double kill for Mogao, and now Ice left in a bad spot, ditched potentially there by Streak Up. Needed him as a teleport target for that Trickster Spirit, and crazy team fight that goes, I believe, 2 for 1 at the end of the day for Team Joystick.
Goodnight Nick just getting a little bit over aggressive on that chase out as they try and finish off their kills inside of the tier 2 tower. Lamogal, given the opportunity, is able to rotate in and make sure a couple more kills go the way of Team Joystick. That pluck able to put a couple of people inside of the tier 2 tower, and a phenomenal pull from iSilence as well, just to make sure that Callus does fall down. Great re-engage from Team Joystick, nets them a pretty solid win in the early game here and puts themselves about 1,000 in the lead.
Really, when you think about re-engage and long team fights, you would assume that they're going to go the way of the Hell comp. But in the early game, I think Sylvanas healing is more impactful. You know, Hell doesn't have that scaling quite yet. They both come out in ticks, but Sylvanas heal gives you protections as well as healing. Feels pretty good.
So, yeah, but Hell gives you movement speed, and she's got 2 heals.
Yeah, but one of them's only single target.
Yeah, but that's still more heals than Sylvanas brings. I think that there is certainly value in what you're saying, especially in a situation like that. Protections can really turn around these fights. Yeah, I'm with you. You turned me around on it, Agra. I like that Sylvanas in the early.
Sylvanas, very good. And
Give Hell one more item, though.
Yeah, it is Rod, first item for Wolfie, so now those heals probably a little bit more impactful because they do get better. It's Blink Cataclysm, finds Sap, that's going to be his beads right away, and Silence ultimate as well. Again, Kalas finds these good initiations, that's plenty of value for that. That means Ice now has 2 very easy targets for that powwow.
So we'll see if they're able to make use of that. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Ikram getting the better end of this 1v1 as he has been for the entirety of this game so far, is able to drop Streak Up down to half HP and strip away his Scorpion. So a little bit of an additional farm going the way of the Team Joystick on the left-hand side. But we got to keep our eyes on Ice, man. You highlighted it best. When there are 2 beads, 2 high-priority beads down in the early game here, maybe more specifically Sap 7, as Ikram does have at least the ability to use that CC immune ultimate to avoid the powwow. So keep your eyes on this Merlin. Should be Ice's target.
Ice might have one now as iSilence has to use the Heavenly Agility. Jukes have got to be good here. Knockup should secure that one, and indeed it will. Yanked on back, and that'll be a kill for Wolfie. Perfect target for it to go on to as well, as Wolfie now 2 and 4.
Yeah, Wolfie needed that infusion of golden experience from all of these kills, and it isn't going to be defense in that second slot from Wolfie. It's the magic focus pickup. Yeah, I may have died 4 times in 9 minutes, but it won't keep happening.
Well, it might. There comes Ice though with the blink in as well, and Sap is the one who's going to fall. Wolfie will end up dying as well, but 1 for 1. Hell gets the assist. I think I'm fine with that play if I'm Goodnight Nick.
Yeah, but with Sap 7 already having the lead and the kill not landing onto Wolfie, I think, sure, Goodnight Nick doesn't feel awful about it as they are playing into a deficit, but anytime that Wolfie is not farming on the map feels so bad. I mean, Hell is essentially your late game win condition. You want her to get there as quickly as possible, even if that is a net positive for the team, maybe not necessarily a great positive for Wolfie.
Are you ready for my hot take here, Mifflin?
Yeah.
I don't know how good Hell is anymore. I'm not that scared of her come late game, for whatever reason. Maybe I'm just being a fool.
Well, it's probably because assassins are way, way better now, so you kind of like can one-shot these mages, especially when they're not going defense in the build. I'm not with you on Hell holistically. I'm with you if you were talking about Mage Hell, which is what we're looking at right now.
Do you think Hell first pick is good?
No.
Neither do I.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
But that doesn't mean that the god isn't good.
No, but like...
I'm not first picking Robin.
Well, yeah.
I love that god, though.
Well, that's because I'm not hitting the ult. I think that overall, like, as far as a strategy to go all in on, I think teams have adapted now to the Hell first pick. And I think that it's still good, you know, 7th, 8th, 9th pick.
Oof, whiff.
Good flicker there from Sap to get him out of it. Silence on the way in. I might have to wait a little bit to talk about this. Good cleanse there from Wolfie, and Kalas had the shield as well, so 2 different forms of getting out of that root pull combo from Silence. Maybe Hell solo I feel like is a little bit better, but even then I think that you really have started to notice like the lack of frontline in those comps and how hard it is for you to actually engage fights. If you're not going Gilgamesh jungle anymore, which kind of like enabled that play style.
Look, I think that Hell is in a position very similarly to Chronos of like Season 5 in that you're not taking them in that first pick position, but if you find yourself in a picks and bans where you have built a composition that can facilitate this protect the king comp and the other team doesn't have too many things that counter you out, can absolutely run away with a game. Hell can still be that piece for your team, but I'm with you, not taking it first overall.
Flicker away from Sap as it's silenced, trapped in the midst of Goodnight Nick, and Deathwalker is going to find him with the ultimate, not a whole lot of damage. onto that Sylvanas. Lotus Crown is now complete, and that makes a massive difference for him. Blink, Sickening Strike, the usual combo for Sobek, of course, holding on to that charge prey, and here comes Sarpei up and over the top, and he RKOs Wolfie down immediately. Ice gonna pull back too, but that's not gonna be enough to turn the tide of this fight. Ice now trapped. It's a double kill for Sarpei, and Joystick able to win the fight yet again.
Let that be a lesson to you, aggro. That's why we hold on to the pluck until afterward, making sure that Ice will fall down. 20 seconds left till he's able to respawn. And what is E-Chrome going to do with that time? Well, he's going to go ahead and pull the Gold Fury while the rest of his team starts to group up around him. Only one in range right now to put up any form of defense is Streak Up. Hail of Arrows has a good deal of range, but not willing to risk it. Ice Silence just shows his head around the corner, and, well, Streak Up doesn't want any of that smoke, so walks away.
Mogal looking really good this set, man. I mean, was obviously great on the Cthulhu, warranted a #1 Cthulhu ban, had a lot of bans thrown his way in this game in particular. But now made that early rotation over and got a double kill. Makes a big play there to set up that fight. Looking good on this Sobek.
He is, and Stone Agaya also still looking good. Similarly to game 1, only 2 knockups on the other side. So passive.
But it procs off pulls as well.
Oh, you're right, it does.
So you get 3 options, yeah.
Plenty of it.
Yep.
This time around for
oh, hello.
Gaia is a nice little ultimate beads down.
Oh, but there's the combo from Streak Up, uses the Aegis, and the one isn't going to land. So bit of an extracurricular fight by the purple buff. E-Chrome surprises Streak Up, but certainly comes out on top. E-Chrome holds on to the Aegis. Streak Up used both relics.
Yeah, so now Streak Up not only has to concern himself with a 1v1 up against E-Chrome in the near future, but a rotation from Sarpei could make it a little bit harder for Goodnight Nick's Hunter to find any of the farm inside a lane. Maybe a silver lining for him, though, is that Gold Fury no longer there, so not too much incentive for Team Joystick to head over to the left side of the map.
Sarpei up 3 levels right now on Ice, who is had some good powwows, is bit involved. I wouldn't say Ice hasn't.
I love this.
Bit in. Go ahead.
Yeah, you see where he's standing right now?
Yeah, I do.
How many junglers are doing that? I've seen it
few.
like twice in the SPL, and it's worked both times. This is so unpredictable. E-Chrome's not dropping wards on the Draugr, but Ice might have them.
But Heim has one. Yeah.
Yeah.
He should see him now.
Oh, he's
and
see
E-Chrome
you
goes,
later.
oh, all right, see ya. Doesn't have the ultimate or the beads, and this is going to pull E-Chrome in.
Good
there,
Aegis.
but perfectly timed Aegis. And now Streak Up, no, sir! Silenced, yoinks him on back. Get on back here and give E-Chrome another kill. I agree that play is really smart against every character in the game besides Heimdall.
Yeah, I didn't even take into account the vision that Heimdall affords his team as Sarpei finds Wolfie in mid, cleanse to avoid the slow, and beads to avoid the root. That took cleanse, beads, stone shield, and still barely hobbles out of there with 10% HP.
Yeah, all right, maybe Robin's good. Maybe I was wrong all along. Sarpei is slamming right now, and look at this. Joystick not stopping after that kill on the left-hand side, continuing to go, and here comes a teleport in from Deathwalker. Good Cataclysm finds 2, but Sap holding on to the relics. Heavenly Agility comes out from Silenced, and that's going to give them an easy eject button, though maybe they want to stick around because here comes Mogal just moseying on through the jungle, and now he's going to be like, oh, okay, I didn't get the memo. We're going to have to back it up. Lurking in the waters, though, maybe the best oops, I messed up button in the game. That gets him out pretty easily. Now it's Goodnight Nick surging forward. I mean, not a lot of blinks. We're looking at Ice as the lone one with one available, and they will eventually give up that chase.
Pal just now coming off a cooldown, so potentially Goodnight Nick could at least look to force some beads as Deathwalker puts some damage into Sap 7. And Goodnight Nick, their remaining group, they want to take this siege?
I mean, they've got the hell. This is the opportunity to do it, but here comes a blink in from Mogal. Finds Ice, but the beads is there
so tanky.
In order to save his life. Yeah, awfully tanky there for Mogal. I mean, he got a Gaia proc. How is anyone supposed to play against that? And he auto-canceled his pluck and gets some mitigation from his Stone of Fall.
And from his passive as well. Good lord, this guy is on to something, Mogal. He's operating on a different level, man. This guy can't be stopped.
Just the unfiltered genius of Mogal over here in the solo lane. Look, we kid a little bit, but
legitimately everything we said is right.
Yeah, he gets mitigation off the auto cancel. You do auto attack a decent amount on Sobek, even in team fights. Like, it could probably work.
Is this guy just the best?
So it's top player damage for Ice. He's playing like one of the best solo laners in the region. There's no doubt about that. You got to give him credit where it's due. He's been fantastic this phase for Team Joystick, as they all have been. It's been very impressive to watch this team kind of come out of nowhere and look really good against now one of the premier teams in this region. As Goodnight Nick have certainly earned that title with their play over these last few weeks. Interesting enough that Ice down 5 levels. 5.
That is certainly too many. That's give up territory for me.
But he's top player damage in the whole game.
Well, he's Daji.
Early game.
Yeah, but Wolfie died 2 times in 2 minutes, and now he's sitting with like 6 deaths on the board.
Yeah, but what about Sarpei, who's been gunning people down? I mean, he's
yeah,
early
Sarpei,
game Robin.
It's called effective damage, all right?
Okay.
Sarpei shows up and he removes someone from the map.
I'd say Ice's damage has all been effective.
I don't know. He's sitting at 2 and 2, 4 and 2. So
Well, yeah, he hasn't gotten a lot of kills.
yeah,
but
Ice is poking.
He's not How do you poke on Daji?
You jump in there, you press 1, you auto attack cancel it, and you leave because you don't have enough damage because you're level 14.
Right, but all that damage still matters. He's got hi-rez. It's going to chunk.
Yeah, it does chunk, and then they back up. Team Joystick, that is, utilize the healing of Eye Silence, and rinse, repeat. Sarpei goes in, and somebody disappears on Goodnight Nick.
Or Wolfie walks away at 30% health as he has a lot and heals, and then it's the same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, but
Here he goes. Goes in.
There's the poke.
Poke damage.
Where'd
I
that
would,
poke?
although man, he forced Sarpei's ultimate down 5 levels in that matchup. Pull off the mark for once from Eye Silence as Deathwalker in the front line. Look at all that zone where they're slowed and they can't attack as fast. That's good.
Yeah, Deathwalker also nearly unkillable at this point with his build and all that self-sustain, as well as the damage mitigation inside of his ultimate. So Team Joystick just don't even want to try and return damage into him. Allow him to do whatever he wants on the map. And Goodnight Nick are just playing with a little bit more confidence right now than Team Joystick. Just playing proactively on the map, grouping up first around the Gold Fury, going for these plays where a 5-level down Daji is somehow able to force ultimates defensively out of Sarpei, who is just now ticking over to 20. And Deathwalker, who has been alone this entire time, is unconcerned, surrounded by 4.
Some would say vibing. I would.
Thriving even.
Yeah, vibing and thriving, if you will. Don't want to mix
And I
those
will.
up. Okay. Kalas heading towards mid. Sarpei actually hunting Ice on this right-hand side. Going to find him on this blue buff and force his
Not
ultimate.
again.
Sarpei has overhead kick available, I have to imagine, unless he used it earlier. There it is. Okay.
It's that easy.
It's just that easy. That ultimate, like many, invalidated by that play. Ikrom nearly solo killed Streak Up, and now trying to get through the Bifrost. He will. Streak Up had to use both of his relics, and now Deathwalker in that front line creating that zone again. Look at all the prots he just got from that big torrent. Chalk gameplay, baby. You love to see it.
I really do, man. Even though Void Shield may have gotten a nerf recently, it seems like Deathwalker, unconcerned with that, does go for that item. So a little bit of defense shred for anyone he's near, and he's near Team Joystick more often than not.
All the time, I would say. And he goes again, but this time going to get flamed down by Sap. Good damage onto him, and the Chalk will finally fall. Goodnight Nick just not close enough to provide support. Kalas there even popped his meditation, given some extra cooldown back as well, as it is already upgraded. But Joystick just too grouped up, too much anti-heal, and take down the Chalk and the subsequent Oni Fury.
You know, Oni Fury's a foregone conclusion as Goodnight Nick without their steadfast, just godlike tank Chalk player. Do not want to stick around inside of that engagement. So Team Joystick get the neutral objective for themselves pretty easily, and will boost their gold lead from what was about 3,000 to 4,000 just before that team fight, closer now to 5,000 or 6,000 as we're starting to approach that magical time in Smite. I'm talking 20 minutes where we can start looking at fire
Nighttime?
giants.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I said Smite. If I was saying just for Goodnight Nick, yeah, nighttime is creeping up, so maybe that is weighing in the back of the minds of Team Joystick. Need to put the pedal to the metal here before Goodnight Nick is getting their passive. This bit sucks, man.
Agree to disagree. Ready for another hot take here, Mifflin?
Please.
Chalk's best role is jungle.
That's not a hot take.
Okay.
That I think you're just right.
Okay.
Because
Well, I could be a hot take and right.
'Cause,
Hot takes doesn't mean I'm necessarily wrong.
Because you want to blink in, you want to ult, and you want to 1-2 on your feet, and if
Right.
that kills them, you're feeling really good.
And it does.
And that's only killing them when you're going full damage, and you're only going full damage Chalk in the jungle. Yeah, I just checked your math, and it adds up.
Jungle, baby. Sign me up. I'm a big fan of that option. But I do think it can be good in the solo lane. Deathwalker certainly has looked very tanky, but ultimately will fall if he gets 5 people from Joystick hitting him last time. So there goes the Pyromancer. Joystick controlling the map now, up 7,000 gold over Goodnight Nick. And they don't have Ikrom. He's on this left-hand side soloing out this Draugr. So it won't be a Fire Giant pull for Joystick, at least until they get their Hunter grouped up with them, and they're getting close to some starter item upgrades. Sarpei already has his. Echrome now hitting level 20 should be able to upgrade that leather cowl into hunter's cowl any moment now. You've got some pretty good options, and Mogao has now picked up a Bumba's Dagger, setting up for the mythical Bumba's Hammer Sobek, which is very strong, as Echrome loses the beads to a nice axe from Streak Up.
Yeah, I think sometimes Mogao gets carried by his mechanics and some of his big brain build decisions, and he's like, all right, well, what can I do to just mess up the meta a little bit more? And it seems like Bumba's Sobek is the option.
Sap has to use beads in a bad spot. Flicker's already down, but not going to get punished more than that. So not all bad, I suppose. But here comes Ice. This is going to be the moment. Great play. Talk about those mechanics from Mogao, putting him on display right there. Saves Sap's life. Surely, if Ice is able to go up into the powwow, that is a dead Merlin.
Yeah, Mogao just doing so much peel for his team right now, and iSilence has got to be thankful for it, because on Sylvanas, your peel potential is, all right, is my ultimate up? It isn't? Am I landing that raw pool more often than not? No, unless your name's like Eonic or something. So, yeah, Mogao going to have to do some heavy lifting inside of these team fights to make sure that Sap 7 is able to maintain his life, and is successful in doing so this time around, as Deathwalker reprises his role of 1 versus 5 inside of a neutral objective, and he's still incredibly tanky, so Team Joystick, unless they're all grouped up as 5, aren't really going to be willing to hit this guy.
All right, Fire Giant pulled by Joystick. Let's see what happens. It is a Hunter's Cowl complete now for Echrome. Only one starter item upgraded by Goodnight Nick, and it's a Bumba's Hammer for Streak Up on the other side. Ice a little bit far away as Fire Giant gets below 40. Mogao has to dash away as well. He's also getting a little bit low. Good poke coming from the Goodnight Nick side. Healing on both sides, though, means these poke wars are going to be hard to fight.
They will be. So keep your eye on Sarpei, who's got decent damage output at this point. Heartseeker now finished up. You got the majority of the Mace Tree available to him as well. So if he's able to close gap on a Streak Up, or Wolfie could separate this engagement. Or maybe Deathwalker just gets his beads forced out. Mogao able to find that one, and Deathwalker saves his own life with that relic.
Needed to use him in that instance for sure, but Mogao, this is the ease of the Sobek comp. Just wait for Mogao to hand deliver a frontliner to your doorstep. Have to watch out for Kalas on the re-engage. A lot of times if your solo laner gets plucked, best thing the support can do is blink past with them and try and hit the people that are going to be hitting the solo laner who just plucked. There it is, blink pluck or blink cataclysm, but it only hits on a Mogao. Quick fingers from Sap to get out of there, and now tossed back in is Kalas lurking in the waters. It looks like a disengage from Joystick, and look at Sarpei's positioning. Silence got pulled back in and popped the cursed Ankh, but Sarpei still not willing to go in. Had the right positioning to do so. Now is going to find Deathwalker with that Mystic Rush, and he just full comboed my man from half health to nothing. And that's another kill for Team Joystick, but Goodnight Nick nice and grouped, using this hell healing. Mogao into the front line looking for Wolfie, but the root is good onto Ice Baby, and he will fall to Echrome's damage. Kalas falls on the backside of Sap, and now Wolfie served up on that silver platter. Mogao playing the role of waiter for Team Joystick, bringing the food straight to the rest of the team.
Wolfie flying through the air, golden, so beads a little bit late this time around, and you're right, man. Mogao was just kind of given that space. He was allowed to just go for pluck after pluck after pluck inside of this team fight. Goodnight Nick finally decide to try and start off the engagement on their own footing. Kalas blink in with the Cataclysm, but damage output from Goodnight Nick not so hot at this point, and Team Joystick with superior positioning at that point are able to secure the team fight right afterward, as well as the Fire Giant on 5 members. Gold lead now 10,000 in favor of the Chaos team, and only 3 Tier 2 towers standing between them and the exposed birds of Goodnight Nick. But I'd be surprised at this pace if all these towers go down. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a soft defense potentially from Goodnight Nick around one of these Tier 2s, and could spell that very last team fight.
I mean, they're already down over 11,000 gold. I feel like at this point you kind of just have to fight on Phoenix, right? Because what's the difference between being down 11,000 versus 13,000? They're just not much.
There isn't, but Goodnight Nick has shown a propensity to show up to every single fight that has been presented so far this game.
Sure.
So could put up a defense on these Phoenixes, but the Phoenix Siege from Team Joystick inside that range is actually incredibly strong. I think Merlin in both offense and defensive situations inside Phoenix is probably one of the best mages you could ask for. He locks down that much space, so Goodnight Nick might try and take a fight where Team Joystick is not expecting them, but maybe I'm wrong this time around. Team Joystick show up on the Tier 2, and there is nobody from Goodnight Nick here.
Not a lot of waves pushing in Joystick's favor, though. Every other wave, mid and right, is pushing away from them and far from where they are as of right now. So this is their only option, though it doesn't look like it's a bad one, as Phoenix gets chunked down to 2/3 HP just that quickly. Mogal moseys in and has to dash away. Ikram did eat some poke, but has the Fire Giant sustain and that from Eye Silence, so should be able to heal back up pretty quickly. And that Phoenix on its last legs, that is, what, 2 autos from Ikram that should be able to get the job done.
With green buff on Eye Silence as well.
Whoa.
And everybody
Oh
else, but
my.
Sarpay, yeah, that's Robin's good.
Yeah, Robin's good. All right, you right. I was wrong on that one. Sarpay just wins it outright that quickly for the Robin, and now by the 2-man Mystic
Stop.
Rush. Someone stop this guy, man. What is he supposed to do? Mogal is going to get the killing blow onto Wolfie. The left side Phoenix is a foregone conclusion. We have indeed figured out who Nick is. Sleep tight. Good night, Nick, as they have lost this set 2-0 to Team Joystick.
2 people die inside the fountain, so maybe Streak Up might be able to put some work in here as he barely survives, and that Titan is burning fast.
Titan will go down. Sap has the relic still
I don't
available.
know.
Streak Up making plays, but it is a deicide, and it is Team Joystick who solidify themselves as a top 2 team in the European SCC. Well played from Goodnight Nick, but ultimately not enough to find the victory.
Yeah, they were up 14,000 gold at the very end of this one, man. Team Joystick was in control the entirety of the time, and I think it all starts with one singular pick, I should say, and I think we can both agree. Sarpay is a consistent factor between both of these games, not just inside of God selection, but also inside of performance. That Robin was popping off.
Yeah, here's the thing. Normally we put in the Discord what highlights we want to see and that kind of stuff, or at least we're supposed to, but sometimes we forget. Sorry about that, production. We're going to go to a break so that they can get Robin highlights ready, because that's what we're going to see when we come back. I've got a pretty good bet. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Team Joystick that comes out with a 2-0 victory over Goodnight Nick and solidify their place among the top two in the European SCC. A big matchup in this one, Mifflin, because this could have tied these two teams in the standings, but Team Joystick came out on top.
They did. A little bit of separation towards the top as they effectively solidify, as you said, their second seed position. And they were convincing in doing so, weren't they? Especially around that jungler, Sarpe. The role that has the best beads usage inside the entirety of the game as well, and has the most hands in the cookie pot, I guess. Like you get like the cookie pot being the lanes and the hands being your ability to influence them. Junglers are really good, and Sarpe proves that here today.
Mifflin, don't expand all of your analytical genius. We got 2 SPL sets coming up after this.
I only got one.
Don't hurt yourself there, buddy. Look, Sarpe did a really good job in this game, was just able to make play after play, and it started early over here in mid. This was the second kill
At 2
onto
minutes.
Wolfie at 2 minutes, and it just continued from there.
It did. Sarpe was just so effective inside of these team fights. It felt like he was always the looming threat, right? He was playing as a solo agent more often than not, just hovering around the edge. And even when Goodnight Nick did decide to get aggressive, they had to concern themselves with their disengage, and Sarpe was always there to make sure it didn't go their way.
And Sarpe was making it happen. Interesting that in these highlights I'm noticing he maxes the 3 instead of the 2 after you max Frontal Onslaught.
You don't do that?
Well, no, the 2 goes down in cooldown. That's his best ability. We agreed on that.
Yeah, but no matter what, you're generally only using it like once inside of a team fight, and you want burst damage with this style of build.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe that's enough. We figured out again why I'm bad at Robin.
I've been maxing my 3 since the console days.
That was crazy damage right there that he just put out on Ice Ice. 3 auto, 1 auto, see you later. 6, 3, and 6 for him. But let's not forget that the rest of the team was doing work as well. Mogao 3, 1, and 9. Echrome 5, 0, 6. Ice Island 0, 1, 13. A near pristine support scoreline for him. I mean, Joystick is just making it happen right now. This is a team that's really playing well top to bottom.
Yeah, both of these games, I think, were a key example of early game diff. It just felt like the laning phase was generally favoring Joystick, and even the rotations towards the early game were generally favoring Joystick as well. Lamogal in both games now makes very early rotations towards mid. Granted, this time rotating towards your own tier 2 tower, probably pretty easy, but
Sure.
he still got there first, and he still made the difference.
Sure did. Sap as well was top player damage in the entire game. So impressive from Team Joystick. Let's take a look at the schedule overall for the SCC. This was a big week, of course, as there is only 1 week left of games after this. So in the second to last week, Joystick get a big win over Goodnight Nick. Elysium do the same over Pandemonium, and Just F6 over Snake Hunters. Over in North America, the Sturdy Artisans and Herculean Hoofs squeaked out 2-1 victories over their opponents. And Sleekness upset Winter Dogs as the top seed in North America. They fell to Sleekness, who was really on a hot streak as of late, though. With only 1 week of games left standing, they're doing it at the right time. Let's take a look at the standings heading into this final week of games over here in Europe. Elysium, of course, up on top 8-1, but Joystick hot on their heels at 7-2. Goodnight Nick clocking in at 5-4, and then Pandemonium at 4-5. Just F6 and Snake Hunters bringing up the rear heading into the final week of games here in the Smite Challenger Circuit. Again, very important as these teams have opportunities to qualify for the World Championships, so they have to not just be playing good Smite among their region, but just straight up good Smite, because they're going to get a chance to play against some of the best soon enough. Let's take a look at Week 10 in the schedule then, so we can get prepared for what is going to be the final week of games for this phase. Goodnight Nick is going to take on Pandemonium, and Joystick take on Snake Hunters. Elysium up against Just F6.
Yeah, this one's a pretty stacked up roster here, man. Look, both SEC regions, aren't they just kind of wild competitive?
Yeah.
I was talking to Kabam earlier because there was a point in time where the SEC legitimately was easy to get into. I think that's fair to say.
Sure.
If you were a pretty well-off team with good ranked players, you could kind of form up a 5-man squad and show up inside the SEC and kind of confirm yourself a spot. That's not true anymore.
No.
I don't think you could just kind of get some good mechanical players and get into this league. It's a highly competitive roster across the board. I love watching it. It is legitimately a treat.
Yeah, if you haven't been tuning into the SEC, you've certainly been missing out. A bunch of very competitive teams and a lot of great players as well, to Mifflin's point. But, of course, we're all here to also talk about the Smite Pro League, the top of the cream of the crop. I'm good at my job, by the way. Solar Scarabs up against Valhalla Valkyries is going to be our first matchup here today, and then the Camelot Kings take on the Oni Warriors. There's a big test for the Warriors there, Mifflin. I mean, the Kings coming off a less than stellar performance up against the Bolts earlier on this week. If they stumble here against the Oni Warriors, that is a pretty big deal because this is in the round robin stage. Each team only plays each other once.
And a couple more Oni Warriors players have made themselves local, so ping difference not going to be as poor in their favor. And they've been on a pretty hot streak recently compared to what they've been doing inside the past. The Solar Scarabs and the Oni Warriors both actually having a very nice resurgence here inside of Phase 3. Oni Warriors, though, actually hitting pay dirt, find themselves a win and maybe chasing another one here up against the Camelot Kings.
Should be a lot of fun. Make sure you're tuning in 1 p.m., which is roughly 25 minutes from now. So make sure you're just getting prepped, getting ready, and we'll be right back in about 25 minutes for the beginning of the SPL. Don't go anywhere.